Brad, it's wonderful to meet you, sir. Thank you for taking a minute out today. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Joe, for having me.
You bet. So before we get into your book, before we get into your life as a writer, I want to begin with this. 5 years ago, this pandemic was raging. Lots of things were unknown, getting rearranged as human beings. How did you make it through that time period, and how did it influence either this book or what you do right now?
That's a good question. And there was actually something that happened during that I think the listeners would really be shocked. So at that point in time, I was secluded down into a basement theater room in my house, not only because of the pandemic, but because I had had the experience of having U.S. Marshals come to my door to tell me to stop posting things on social media against the judges. And it went so far as to a day where I was suddenly getting letters from defense attorneys asking if I wanted to use their services. And I'm like, why are you contacting me? I said, well, you've been charged with a crime. And I went to the courthouse, and sure enough, they had filed a third-degree felony. They said that I had violated a protective order. Now, I had no protective order in place. They said it was against my sister, and it said that I lived with her, and said that I'd threatened her physically and whatnot. And I'm like, I haven't seen my sister for 5 years after what was happening. They literally went in after I went down and complained to the district attorney about what was happening. And my result was they came and filed charges. I was found guilty, put on probation for 2 years, couldn't talk to anybody, my sister, anything. But so here's the pandemic raging. I'm getting charged with false crimes, and they had nothing better to do than try to evict me from my own home. I mean, here, me and my daughters and my wife were living in a place that my mother bought me in 2015. And in the middle of the pandemic, in the middle of winter, I get a 3-day eviction notice. And it was these people that I'm dealing with literally control the courts. The courts refuse to hear me. They refuse to give me a hearing. They refuse to give me a jury trial. But more importantly, they were just going to make me homeless at all costs. They were strangling me financially, stealing money from my own accounts. Because my story sends so many people to prison. It's unbelievable. But yeah, that's how I spent my period of time in the pandemic.
Oh, that's wild. So let's get into what you're doing today. If I put kids always get the truth. If I put you in front of a bunch of 12-year-olds at career day and one of the kids in the back of the room is like, "Hey, what do you do for a living?" How do you answer him?
I'd have to say that all I'm doing every day, 24/7, is trying to get justice. I don't know how much the kids could understand, but it's literally, I get up. I've filed over 40 lawsuits in the last 6 years. Not one judge has forced any of these defendants to even respond. I mean, here's a $250 million estate. When my father died on October 24th of 2024, they literally cannot account for $1. Now, these are my assets. These are people stealing these oil properties and real estate properties, and they're the attorneys of the LDS Church. And if you really get into the story and you understand the law, what happens is here we have one attorney named Craig McCullough, and I make no apologies for these people that I'm openly accusing of being thugs, of being criminals, of being felons at large. These people literally falsified documents, wire fraud, insurance fraud. I can prove every one of these, and I do in my book. I've got all the evidence there. I would never make an allegation without having evidence to back it up.
Yeah. But
so here, as I sit there with this battle of trying to find justice, it should be shock and awe for anybody that hears it. I'm not an attorney, but I've got a great legal background. My father was an attorney. And I understand this whole conflict of interest and whatnot. But to make the case really simple for the kids, I would say, you either have the choice of, and this gets to the conflict of interest, which they've admitted to, you either get milk or cookies. You can't have both. Craig McCullough, Curtin McConkie can either represent my father or my sibling. You can't represent both. And they are representing both. The court knows it. They're representing both the plaintiff and the defendant. So on paper here I've got in from my book it's a paragraph taken right out of one of the trusts, and it says, if the settler, who's my father, has a serious illness, operation, or should die, the trustee should contact his attorney, Craig McCullough, at Curtin McConkie. Now, you go to Curtin McConkie and they say, sorry, we really didn't represent him or my mother. So back in 2013, when my mother got lung cancer and my father had dementia, they were introduced to this law firm as if they were their attorneys, when in all reality, they had been bribed. They had been paid off by my sister to embezzle this estate. In 2015, there's a document that was created that they literally changed the signature page to so that they could put whatever they wanted. And my parents' attorney made himself a beneficiary. So he gives himself the right to put whatever he wants, create any beneficiaries, and transfer any oil properties to himself. What kind of a trust would do that? None. Then here they've got 15 trusts created, all of which are just sham trusts meant to be, smoke and mirrors. But worse, if you look at the LDS Church, they've done similar things. Here's a $200 billion investment account that is sitting there untaxed. The IRS gave them a $5 million penalty. There's a series of trusts out there and nobody even knows where the money is. And that's exactly what's happened to my parents' estate. Wow. I can't emphasize enough that people need to sit back and think, this is the most cowardly act that any attorney, law firm could ever do. You take one of your clients, 84 years old, you lie to them. This is abuse and exploitation of vulnerable adults at its finest. And then to deny everybody their rights thereafter. And if I might just tell you, the one of the worst parts of this story was when my mother died in 2018. My father and I went to Curtin McConkie and said, well, the assets of my mother should be transferred into his estate as the remaining spouse. And they looked us in the eye and they said, we're sorry we have to meet under these circumstances, but we have an undisclosed conflict of interest and you should leave the premises because you're now adversarial to us. So here's my father, who's been paying them for years thinking that they represented him. To make matters worse, they ran down, because my father's an attorney. He could have fought this in court by himself. They went to the court and had him deemed incompetent within days, saying his dementia was too great. He couldn't think straight. So here he can't defend himself. Curtin McConkie then went to Adult Protective Services to take me out of the picture by filing reports that I was financially and emotionally abusing my father. So here they're accusing me of doing exactly what they've done. And they gave my sister full conservatorship and guardianship. So she immediately turned around with Curtin McConkie and said, you have no right to come and visit your dad. And think of that. Think if just out of the blue, you're being prohibited from going to your own home, from seeing your own father. So for 6 years, Joe, I was prohibited from going to his house, and I sat there and fought that battle every day in court, just begging, look, let me see my father. And they couldn't, because they knew that I could pull out my video camera and film him saying whatever. So then in October, I get a phone call saying, hey, your dad's dying. He's just got a few more days to live. And I said, can I have 4 hours with him to just say I love him, to tell him he's my hero? He's obviously coherent. And they really never gave a reason why he was dying. And so next thing I hear, he's dead. And as I was trying to get, I actually asked for an autopsy because they've been using morphine, and I don't want to get into that story, but there are such sickening things going on behind the scenes. They put him in the ground the next day. No funeral, no viewing. I mean, here's my dad that I haven't seen for all that time. His body's still warm, and they put him in the grave without me ever getting to see him. I mean, that is ruthless. That is cold-hearted. These are people who are not showing any signs of even being human. It's here's my family right now. We're literally screaming for help. We're calling 911 to the court system every day, and nobody will come. I have neighbors around me who have shunned us because they realize that my case will expose the LDS Church. This is the entire problem. This is why I can't get justice. So Craig McCullough is an attorney of Curtin McConkie. Whatever he does as far as a crime, if he accepts a bribe, and let's say that's all he does, or if he commits a gross negligence, which costs my parents their entire estate, he is charged with those crimes. But every partner, there's a law that's called vicarious liability. Every partner in that law firm, there's 159, get charged with all those crimes. So these people, they know it. I mean, I've been emailing every one of them for years, begging for help for them to stop. Every one of those 159 attorneys would be assessed treble damages, or triple whatever was embezzled. So every single one of those people would owe $750 million, if you can imagine. I'm not asking for anything but $1 and my estate back. That's all I want. My parents' estate restored. This is their legacy. But to make matters worse, and this is where it really gets bad, this is the LDS Church's law firm. The next prophet of the LDS Church, named Dallin Oaks, literally went in and blessed this law firm in a temple-like ceremony and called these lawyers the lawyers of Jesus Christ himself. So here's my parents. They put all their faith in this entity, thinking, well, our money's just as safe as the tithes and offerings, and they'd paid millions, believe me. And so the church, by virtue of what they did when they condoned this law firm, made themselves liable. So you think of those tens of billions of dollars, which the Curtin McConkie would technically owe my father's estate, now due and payable by the LDS Church. You're talking, I mean, the number literally goes over $100 billion. This would literally be the largest lawsuit in history, and it doesn't even need a jury or a hearing because they know they're guilty without opening their mouths. But so here's the LDS Church responsible. But more importantly, there's another rule called corporate liability, where the officers, this is the quorum of the 12 apostles, this is the prophet, who are each held personally liable for what their agent has done. And so they've all been served in this case. Every person in the upper echelon of the church is aware of this. They also know that they would be included in this RICO crime, where every one of them would be charged personally for all those crimes that Craig McCullough has committed. Now, what really makes it worse, and I speak about this, is corruption in both the church and state. Here you've got not only the state of Utah, the governor knows about this, the attorney general of the state of Utah. They've all done everything they can to fight this by filing stays in court. But so now you bring in the entire state of Utah. We've got our chief judge, Robert Shelby, from the United States District Court for the District of Utah, who, when he learned about this in 2019, I gave him a 300-page complaint with every allegation supported by evidence, just like I have in my book. And it was a RICO filing, so this is a citizen coming and begging for help. He literally dismissed it with prejudice, meaning I shouldn't be able to file it again. Now, these crimes keep being committed every month right now, so I can file endlessly as long as they don't provide accounting. But this went to over 40 different judges in both the state and federal courts. This went to Merrick Garland, the Attorney General of the United States under Joe Biden. Joe Biden is his boss. He was served in this matter. He knows that this would take down a world religion. I'm not out to take down a world religion, but if justice was served, this would have such horrible implications for both the church and the state, all the way up to the top of the government. So, the question I would ask people is, do we really go by the old, Spock in one of the Star Treks? Is it better for the few be punished, so to speak, in favor of the many? Because they're literally treating my family as roadkill. We have no rights. I mean, I sit there and laugh when I see people fighting to send people to Ukraine to fight a battle for their rights, when I'm sitting there saying, I have no rights. I mean, this is not justice for all. This is justice for some. This is justice for the wealthy. These people are hiding behind their titles, their black robes. They're, in the church, they wear these holy garments to get into the temple. The level of hypocrisy is unbelievable. These people are pillars of our community, and not one of them will stand up and say, enough is enough. I'm convinced that these people at Kurt McConkie could literally go into the street, even just kill us right out. Take a child and just execute them. The judges would do nothing. And I believe it's fully under the direction of the United States Department of Justice, who will not let this religion fall no matter what. They refuse to have it exposed. I mean, this is tragic. Is on my book, I literally say this is a tragedy behind, the case number that was the primary one associated with this. So, I don't know what else I can say. I mean, this is something that I hope everybody in the world eventually hears about, because it's the definition of people gone bad. And people might ask, well, what am I trying to accomplish through all this? I was a former banker of, there's a bank here called Zion's Bank. It's very tightly tied with the LDS Church. And for 17 years, I was a vice president. I was, I had a very good position. And I think about, here's these accounts insured to $100,000, as everybody knows, the FDIC insurance. We were audited nonstop by both the state and the feds a couple times a year. And they went through everything. If I was missing $10, I was in trouble. In fact, if I accepted a gift over $25, it was considered a bribe. So here you've got a person, a law firm, one person, nobody checking up on him. There's Craig McCullough, who walks in. My parents literally went to the bank of the LDS Church believing that, okay, here's our $250 million. And he goes in. Now, imagine you went into the bank yourself and you deposit this kind of money. And as soon as you walk out the door, they rip off the signature pages and the branch manager gives himself all the money. There's no difference here. There's no regulation concerning these trusts. These attorneys are never checked up on. I mean, the ultimate power in these people's hands is unacceptable. I mean, my ultimate goal would be to try to get legislation. I want this to be a movement. I want people to really stand, not just look at my story and say, oh, that's too bad. Oh gosh, I can't believe this. This is going to take countless people contacting congressmen. Many senators know about this. Many congressmen refuse to do anything right now. There's actually on the internet and I talk about this in my book, something called the old switcheroo. And this is a very well-known event that can happen, or a practice that can happen in estate planning. And when you pull it up, it's just so cold-hearted, but it's the step-by-step instructions of how to steal an inheritance. And so these people followed it step by step. I can literally go through the 7 steps, and it's such a callous, the way that it explains it. It's like, oh, you can run all the way to the bank laughing. So here it talks about what you need is basically a dirty attorney and a couple of unsuspecting siblings, or just one in this case. And in this case, my parents' CPA, who's my brother-in-law, was in on this. So it's taken all 3 of these people to execute this crime. But it literally says, you know, you have to get the person deemed incompetent at the end, the surviving spouse. You have to create a false family trust. It just goes on and on and on. And that type of thing, they can just, and it literally says, this is the wave of the future. And it's you know, what could be worse in this society than abusing children, just vulnerable adults is a definition. My daughters were minors when this happened, and when we went to the accounts to try and get money, my dad immediately said, "Brett, go get $200,000 and engage this law firm here in Salt Lake, who recognized the crimes immediately." And when I went to the accounts, while they were having him deemed incompetent, they had drained all of the money from his personal account. They'd taken $6 million from the trust accounts and all the millions of dollars that were in my daughter's accounts. So literally just zeroing us. I lost my company that I started with my mother. The number of crimes they've committed is just unbelievable. I mean, people wouldn't even believe some of these crimes. And there's an entire chapter in my book. And by the way, if I could hit an electronic button right now and just send everybody a free copy of my book, I'd even pay them $1 to read it. Yeah. Because I'm not out to make money on this. It's just get my story told. But you know, if I could just explain this one crime, it will blow anybody's mind. So in the trust documents, now keep in mind, these trust documents are all bogus. They put in a clause that said, if me and my wife, Veronique, of 36 years, were divorced, my wife would be treated as if she preceded my parents in death, meaning she couldn't be a trustee if something happened to me or if I was deemed incapacitated, which they turned around and did. You know, they not only said, well, he's a criminal, but we believe he's abusing drugs and alcohol. So here's the document that says, if something happens to me, my wife and then my daughters will become the trustee, and meaning Kurt McConkie has to provide them with all these documents. They went in and created a false divorce decree divorcing my wife and I. They had the signatures falsified. They had a judge ratify that document. My wife and I have never been divorced, but here's court documents that divorced us. I mean, imagine going into the court and you're standing in front of the judge and you say, and he says, "What's the crime?" And he said, and I say, "Your Honor, these people divorced me and my wife without without any justification whatsoever." I mean, these crimes just go on further and further. But here I've been going on for 6 years since they admitted guilt. Every single day I'm consumed with this. The days of rage I can't even express to you, where I realize there's hundreds of people, hundreds of judges. The Department of Justice knows this. And rather than just pull us to the side and say, "Hey, here's your estate. We realize what happened," they have to make a point that they don't want any type of a settlement here, so that it doesn't prove that what they're saying is wrong. But you know, my everyday, when one of the days I was denied my rights in front of a judge, which is probate, I was just asking for beneficiary statements on behalf of my wife and my daughters and I. And that day, and his name is Judge Robert Faust, that day that he denied us, I sat down and started writing this book. Every day for over a year, I would get up. It's a 520-page book full of evidence, and I would go back through every document. It was horrific to sit there and write this story day by day. I mean, it would bring tears to my eyes as I saw what they'd done to my parents and whatnot. And I mean, it's still hard for me to read any pages of this, just due to the horrific nature of it. But you know, literally, I want to just explain the ease in which this case is settled. They can't answer a yes or no question. Joe, because if you ask Kurt McConkie, you know, and I show them that paragraph that I read to you earlier, think of the poetic justice here with the religion and whatnot. You read them that paragraph that says they represent my mom and dad, and you ask them, is this paragraph true? And so you read it and it says that they represent my father. And if they say, yes, they do represent him, well, they've already admitted they don't. They refuse to even acknowledge he exists. And if they say no, well, then who in the hell prepared all their trust documents?
Yeah.
They can't answer a yes or no question without indicting themselves. This is why I can't even get a hearing. There's a rule out there called res ipsa loquitur. It's a Latin name that's used in the legal industry, and it means the evidence speaks for itself. It puts the burden of proof on them to prove that I am wrong.
Yeah.
They can't let me in there because that one question condemns them to prison. So a yes or no question, and it's the largest settlement in world history, I promise, when you do all the math of everybody who would get charged with all this money. So I don't know what the answer is. I don't, it's not like I want to bring down the church and the state, but our laws of RICO, that's what this would do. Yeah. So do we deny anyone their rights to justice? I mean, why don't they go in and make legislation and say, well, this is really screwed up, we can't let this happen? But nothing's going to happen unless, you know, people like you are the only place that I'm able to vent this story. You know, major networks, false news,
sure,
censorship. Nobody's going to report this.
Well, that's the thing. Podcasting is a wonderful realm to put the story out, get the news out. So you've done a wonderful job of presenting the case in the book. If anybody wants to get a copy, they want to reach out, they want to learn more, where's the best place for them to go?
Right now it's on Amazon. I just did an audio book. I'm pursuing a screenplay to try and get it on a Netflix series, and I've had some interest in that. Okay. But yeah, the only place they can go right now is Amazon, pending getting it into Barnes and Noble and regular stores. But yeah.
All right. So I will put links out there. Thank you so much. Thank you for your story. Thank you for your time. I hope you find peace, and I hope you find some solvency with this. You deserve it. So thank you so much for taking a minute out today. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Joe. I appreciate it immensely.
Thank you. Take care.
Hello, friends. Joe Dimino here. I just wanted to let you know that after 30 years or so, I have finally released my first book of poetry through the mighty Spartan Press here in Kansas City, Missouri. As the creator and host of both Neon Jazz Radio and the Famous Interviews with Joe Dimino podcast, along with being a visual artist, I'm ready to embark on a new adventure and want you to be a part of it. You can get a copy online via Barnes & Noble, Amazon, and actually on the streets in Kansas City at the great Prospero's bookstore off 39th Street. You can also visit joedimino.com for links to the book, to more poetry, and everything in my world, including paintings. Thanks for all of the love and support over the years, and please dig the words.